folks, ladies and gentle cars, my name is Farkle8000. Welcome back to the Diecast competition series. It is time to swap your grays for oranges because it is time for our first special competition of the season. It is time for Race Derby. This is the third year this competition has been run. Each year it has been Each year it has been won by rookies, and every competitor in the final round has been gunning for their first career win. Does that happen this year? Probably. This year has been crazy, and I doubt it will slow down anytime soon. But what is Race Derby? As I said earlier, our typical track is gray. It is that sharp-angled with the drag strip racetrack that we've used for the first 3 competitions already this year and will be reverting to in the next competition. That is the gray track. This track here, a lot different. It is orange instead. Competitors, as per usual, will line up right here at lanes 1 through 4. There are no numbers, but it's the same. So they'll start here, and then they'll race down the track. And they will make it to this section right here, these yellow pieces. This first section here is called the Explosion Zone. And as a competitor drives over it, the winner will have their loser competitor flipped off. As you can see right there, that will happen on both sides. Side note, the eliminated right there don't typically like to be eliminated, but the winners there regardless will drive down to this part here, which what we call the merge, and the exact same thing will happen. The loser will get flipped off, and the winner will drive to the finish line. Usually, the first competitor across the finish line is not the winner, because as I said earlier, the eliminated typically don't like to be eliminated. And so we will be reviewing the footage after each race to make sure that who we believe the winner is actually the winner. The winner will have their entire lane clear and will win the race, move on to the next round. Something the Diecast competition series mentioned to every competitor and that I will mention now is round 1 will be looked at a lot closer. For example, if going through the explosion zone, a competitor gets eliminated and slides down the track and triggers the piece at the merge zone and the guy who probably should have won gets flipped off and the guy who should have been second place moves on. And round 1, the guy who gets flipped off is going to win the race. In round 2, you get flipped off. The guy who technically should have finished second will win the race. And so with that out of the way, give me just a moment. I'll head back to the booth and we can get Race Derby round number 4 of the 2025 season underway. Now that I'm back in the booth, it is time to get race 1 of round 1 underway. From right to left, we have Lantern, Engine, Pullback, and Bird. It is time to let the Race Derby chaos begin. And then, as per usual, it's a pretty slow start. It looks like Lantern's being left behind. Bird and Pullback way in the air. Engine's the only one on his tires. Pullback flipped off the track as Engine crosses the line in first. It looks like Engine will be declared the winner, and he will indeed. Something you will see in this competition a lot are competitors who refuse to be eliminated. They just stay on the track instead of getting flipped off. Another thing you will see very common in this competition are competitors popping wheelies, flipping as soon as they get to the explosion zone or even the merge zone. That is very common. Looked like that happened to both Pullback and Bird, which slowed them down so much, allowing Engine to pull through and grab the victory. Next up, we have Ladder, Jeep, Fire, and Minecart. I mentioned earlier only rookies have won this competition, while the competitor who's been beat both times sits in lane 1 in this race, and that is Ladder. He has 2 career second places, and it has come in this competition the last 2 years. So let's see if he can change that stat around in this competition. And it's a slow start. It does look like Ladder is ahead of Jeep. Fire falling way behind. Jeep way in the air. Minecart falling back. And it will indeed be Ladder with the victory. A great run there for Ladder. Pretty much unchallenged. Looked like he was ahead of Jeep the whole time. Fire, a very slow race right there. Don't know what happened to him. But just some competitors just can't handle the slow starts, and that's perfectly fine. Ladder, though, something about this track. He is one of the best on it. We apologize in advance for the next race footage being incredibly blurry. That was unintentional. We'll make sure that doesn't happen again throughout this competition. But next up, we have Sunshine, Finns, Dylan, and Metrotech. And it is a very even start. Don't know who's ahead. Looks like Finn's maybe falling back. Finn's off the track. Dylan on top of Metrotech. And they'll slide, slamming into the finish line. Sunshine is just barely in front of Metrotech. And they will be giving her the victory. Looks like Dylan getting off the track, maybe landing on top of Metrotech, is what slowed him down. Wasn't ahead though. So, nothing crazy is going to happen there. It will be Sunshine. Moving on to the next round. Volks, Stinger, Bronze, and M race next. It's the even start once again. Don't know who's ahead. Looks like Volks is falling behind everyone way in the air except for Stinger. So Stinger will come through with the victory. Everyone, a ton of difficulty getting through the explosion zone way in the air. Looked like very similar to race 1, where everyone was going everywhere except for Engine, and he moved on. Same thing happens here. So Stinger goes from being able to finish a race on the regular track to now moving on to the next round in this competition. Rescue, 9, Oldster, and Bullet race next. I'm a little worried about Rescue in lane number 1. He's a very light competitor, so I am a little worried that he's going to have trouble getting through the explosion zone, trying to eliminate his other competitors. The even slow start once again. It looks like Oldster beginning to fall behind. The eliminated way off the track, out of harm's way. Bullet and 9 battling, and Bullet will be launched off the track. So we have our first clean race, or clean, I guess, in race derby standards, where the winner is obvious. 9 gets the victory, and we'll move on to the next round. Finish, Total, Outlander, and 13 race next. The even start, as per usual. It looks like Finish in 13, beginning to pull ahead. 13 pops a wheelie on the side of the track, but will be able to save it to cruise to the finish line. And that was a very even start right there, or a very easy race, right there for 13. I called Finish being even with him, but 13 just hit the rocket button and took off. That'll be fun to watch in later rounds. But right now, he moves on to round 2. Silver, Patriot, Flatbed, and Sierra race next. Sierra in the last competition had a very heartbreaking finish. Fought DFD down to the ground. We'll have to see how she does in this competition here. The even start, it looks like Flatbed beginning to fall behind. Both eliminated off to the side of the track. Patriot will be ahead of Sierra through the merge zone. Sierra popping 2 wheels will cross the finish line, but it doesn't matter because her path is not clean. So Patriot will get a relatively easy victory here. He was eliminated round 1 in last season's competition by the winner of that competition, Diablo. This time, he moves on to round 2. DFD, Luke, Plasma, and Christopher race next. The even start, it looks like Luke beginning to fall behind through the explosion. Luke on top of DFD, but DFD will not let it affect him and cruise to the finish line. It looks like Christopher was very close right there to DFD, but just got slowed down. Probably bounced off the walls, wasn't sure, but was looking at Luke and DFD as Luke was on top of DFD. They get to the finish line. Luke, with this finish, will be placed in 3rd. DFD will move on to the next round. It has just mentally come to my attention that I don't think I explained how 3rd and 4th are decided. 3rd and 4th are decided not by who makes it the furthest down the track, but who makes it to the explosion zone first. Who makes it to their piece first. So whoever you see in 3rd made it first. Whoever you see in 4th made it last to the explosion zone. Next up, we have 68, Reem, Skull, and Netspend. And it looks like 68 might be pulling ahead a little bit. Skull beginning to fall back. 68 off the track. Reem on the side of the track as well. And Netspend will come across the line in first. Skull on the wrong side of the track, falling down. Netspend will get the victory. And I think Reem, without making that mistake, would have gotten victory or not, as he's placed in 3rd. I'm getting word that 68, he got to her piece first and just didn't trigger it. And so Reem will actually be placed in 3rd, 68 in 2nd, and Netspend will get the victory. Mini, 35, Rancher, and Throwback race next. Relatively even start. Looks like Throwback being the one to fall behind, but he pulls to the front. 35 and Throwback battling for the lead. Throwback will be unable to beat 35 to the merge zone, and so he will be flipped off and eliminated. Throwback, unfortunately, just had a slow start, was able to build the momentum as the race went on to get to 2nd place, but that slow start probably was enough to set him far enough behind so that 35 had little pressure to get the victory. Bush, Bruiser, Hendrick, and One-Liner race next. And they're off a relatively even start. One-Liner and Bruiser may be beginning to fall behind. The NASCAR's way in the air. It's close at the merge. And Hendrick will flip Bush off the track. Once again, another pretty clean race, at least for race derby standards. Hendrick getting a defined win right there. No review necessary. The review was necessary for 3rd and 4th. One-Liner comes home in 3rd. Close for Bush, but Hendrick moves on to round 2. High Point, Rover, Crystal, and Tron race next. I mentioned this earlier in this competition regarding both Ladder and Stinger, but Rover in lane number 2 is another competitor who has struggled mightily on the original track. We'll see how he can do on something a little newer. And they're off. And it looks like Tron may be falling behind early as Rover pulls ahead, pops a front wheelie, and drives to an easy victory. As none of his competitors even make it past the merge. Looks like Tron and Crystal stuck on top of the track. Looking at your results, Tron comes in 2nd. Wow, he must have had a rocket. Or he must have hit the rocket button not long after I called him with a slow start. Must have been something very similar to Throwback that we saw. Slow start, but began to build that momentum. Probably why he comes in 2nd. But I mentioned it. Rover, struggling on the regular track, moves on to round 2 in Race Derby. Racer, BP, Mustang, and 10 race next. And they're off It's a pretty even start. Don't know who's falling behind early through the explosion. The outside lanes are off the track, and BP will cross the line ahead of Mustang, who is upside down. Very similar. It looked like what happened to those outside lanes. Very similar to what I mentioned at the start of this competition. Going through those zones can pop a competitor off the track. We've seen competitors lose races because they're on the side of the track, and it looks like that's exactly what happened to both 10 and Mustang. Taking a look at the finishing results, Mustang will be placed in second, so just made a mistake, I guess. Racer placed in last, but it's BP. Moving on to round 2. Country, Tire Pros, Copo and Trunkless race next. And they're off. And it's a pretty even start. It looks like Tire Pros beginning to fall behind. Copo's upside down. In front of Trunkless will cross the merge zone on his lid. And it's chaos as they come to the finish line. Trunkless will limp across the line. And I have no idea who wins this race. It looks like Copo's piece has been flipped up, though there is also a case of competitors not actually hitting their piece, even though they're first to it. So taking a look at the finishing results, Trunkless will be given the victory, which means Copo shouldn't have been there. And those two are actually in the same lane, so it must be Country in second place. It looks like a bit of a mistake right there, because a competitor finishing second cannot be on the same side as the winner. So that is a mistake on the series right there, with both Copo and Trunkless being placed first and second. That is wrong. That was chaos, so I guess I can't really blame them. Folks, ladies, and gentle cars, upon extensive further review into the last race, the finishing order has changed. The finishing order, Tire Pros will be in fourth, Trunkless will be placed in third, Country will finish second, and Copo will win the race. Upon further review, Copo is a little bit higher off the ground than many of his competitors, and so as they make it to the explosion zone, Copo hits his piece the smallest fraction in human history second before Trunkless does. But because he's too high off the ground, Trunkless's side triggers flipping Copo off the track. And so Copo will be placed with the win. Trunkless will be placed in third. So if you wanted to know why competitors fight so hard after being eliminated, look no further than that last race, because Copo, getting flipped off, getting eliminated, fought for it, and now he's moving on to the next round. But on to the next race, we have Rev, Goldie, Kurt, and Skyline. And they're off, and it's a pretty even start. Don't know who's ahead. Through the explosion zone, the outside lanes are way in the air. They're fighting for position, and Goldie will cross the line, sneaking through. Kurt and Skyline way in the air. Both refused to lose, fought for that position. As you can even see, neither of their flip pieces have been triggered. And so they fought for it, believing they should be there. But upon all of that, Goldie will get the win. Rev will be placed in last. It looks like Kurt will win that battle between he and Skyline. Goldie on to round 2. Blackout, M3, Kohler, and Railing race next. And they're off. And it's a pretty even start. Don't know who's ahead, but Railing's definitely falling back. Blackout's off the track. M3 clips the wall, and Kohler will win the race. That was a wild one as M3 eliminated here, and his heartbreak and terrible season continues. He sits 180th in points, and he will continue to drop. Kohler advances to round 2. 55. 1. Brandt and Safari race next. And they're off, and it's a relatively even start once again. Don't know who's in the lead. The Explosion Zone, 1's on top of 55, and that'll slow her down enough so Brandt will take the victory. I think without 1 getting flipped off there and landing on top of 55, she could have had a chance. Unfortunately, 55 just gets slowed down way too much there. Brandt, the lone NASCAR in this race, moves on to round 2. Redliner, Lefty, Tab, and Spikes race next. And they're off. And it's a relatively even start. It looks like Lefty might be left behind. They're off the track. And Tab's the only one still racing, so she'll get the win. I don't know who comes in second, but I definitely know who wins. As for, I think, the first time I've ever seen one competitor still racing as Lefty and Redliner both flip themselves off the track. It actually looks like both of their flip pieces are activated, and it'll be Redliner coming in second place, so Lefty placed in third, Spikes in fourth, but it's Tab getting a relatively easy victory to round 2. Rick, Nova, Rifle, and Star race next. And they're racing, and it looks like Nova's getting left behind early through the Explosion Zone. Rifle bounces way in the air, so Rick, who had a clean drive through the Explosion Zone, will flip Rifle off the track. Nova's stuck upside down at the merge, and Rifle went for a huge tumble after getting eliminated. Bouncing off the wall was Rifle, handing the win to Rick. The mistakes continue. Getting the lead through that Explosion Zone, it feels like a lot of competitors crumble under the pressure. Don't know who's next to them, so they push it. And they hit the wall, slows them down way too much, and allows their competitor to win. That's exactly what happened here. Discount, Daylight, Flames, and Confetti race next. Flames in lane number 3 is the only non-NASCAR in this race, and they're off. And so far, Flames is holding steady, but now he's beginning to fall back. They flip way in the air. Daylight crosses through the merge zone first and flips Confetti off the track. Discount is through first on his tires, and both sides of the merge zone have been triggered. So who wins this race? Well, technically, it should be Confetti, but Daylight went through and flipped him off the track, so Discount wins. Or does he? As we take a look at the finishing order, he does not. This is what I mentioned at the very start of this competition. An issue like this, we are letting pass round 1. Round 2, Discount wins this race. But it's round 1, so Confetti will advance to the next round. Ally, Blue, White, and Turbo race next. And they're off. And it's a slow start. It looks like Blue's beginning to be left behind. Ally and Turbo pull ahead of the pack. Turbo's big time sideways, so Ally will cross the line with the win. And I mentioned it. I went on a slight bit of a rant earlier, but Turbo made a huge mistake and will finish in second place, getting way sideways. We could see his left side tires. He was that sideways, which is why he doesn't get the win. Ally does instead. 3. Mobile, Dragon, and Dual Fueler race next. And they're off. It's a relatively even start. Don't know who's in the lead through the Explosion Zone. Dragon, a little interference with Dual Fueler will allow 3 to get the victory. That is a rough interference right there. Dual Fueler, looking for his first career win, will get denied by Dragon. Without Dragon right there, I think Dual Fueler could have had something for 3, could have even won this race, but I mentioned it earlier, between 55 and 1. A competitor on top of you is not the greatest, and it will slow you down. That's what happened in this one. And 3 advances to round 2. Blah. With Rookies, Vintage, Jacqueline, and Mighty. And they're off. And it looks like Blah is beginning to be left behind through the explosion zone. Jacqueline's off the track behind Mighty, but they're no match for Vintage as he crosses the line in first. Mighty will somehow get to the other side and coast his way down the track, but that looked like an easy victory for Vintage, and I don't know what happened with Blah right there. An incredibly slow race for her. I was not expecting her to finish last. I was really expecting Jacqueline to finish last because she's done that quite a lot this season. But it's the Rookie of Vintage. Moving on to the next round. This 4-car rookie race has Hamlin, Burner, Viper, and Ziegler. And they're racing, and it looks to be a very even start. Each rookie wanting to win through the explosion zone. It looks like Burner clipped Hamlin a little bit, but it will not affect him as he crosses the line ahead of Ziegler. Burner will make it to the finish line. Ziegler flipping wildly off the track, but it doesn't matter as Hamlin gets the victory. The NASCARs finish 1-2. And it looked like Burner tried to spook Hamlin at the end to maybe get Ziegler the win, or I guess let Ziegler get the win, but it did not affect him whatsoever. That's why Hamlin's on to round 2. 4 more rookies, and this one includes Sonny, Falcon, Ranger, and Drone. And they're off. And it's a pretty even start. Maybe Sonny pulling ahead a little bit through the explosion zone. Falcon on top of Sonny, but it won't phase him as he takes the win ahead of Ranger. And for the second race in a row, the NASCARs finish 1-2, and a competitor tries to intimidate the winner, and they're not phased whatsoever. Sonny advances to round 2. 2 rookies in Custom and Miller against the veterans Venom and Ruthless. And they're off. And they're racing. And the rookies maybe begin to pull ahead a little bit. Custom way off the racetrack. Miller will cross the line first. And Venom looks like he will be in second place. And I am getting a huge word that Custom should have won that battle, and so he will be given the win instead. This is another thing that in the next round, this won't happen. Or this will happen, but in this type of situation, Miller would get the victory, and Custom would be in third place, but the piece for Miller didn't trigger. The piece for Custom did, flipping him way off the track, which caused him not to be able to fight or get the win. And so Custom will get the win. Venom, a pretty solid second place. Miller, third. Ruthless, fourth. Elliott, 96. Courtesy and Toyota race next. Courtesy in lane number 3 is the first New Yorker to race in this competition. And they're off. And they're racing, and it looks like Elliott beginning to pull to the lead, bouncing on the side of the track, but he'll cross the line ahead of Toyota and Courtesy, who are battling for that position. Courtesy will cross the line, but it doesn't matter as he will once again not advance to round number 2. He will actually be placed in last. That is not good whatsoever, as the rookie of Elliott gets the victory. And very quickly, circling back to Courtesy here, it is time to hit the panic button. For Courtesy, if he wants to race next season, he needs to start getting to the next round consistently right here, right now. Because this is not good whatsoever. He's by far the lowest New Yorker. He has certainly lost the most positions, as his other competitors have made it to the next round recently, or will be run later this week instead of today. And so this is not good for Courtesy whatsoever. He needed to win this race, but he didn't. And this is a huge loss. If you ask me for my prediction now, Courtesy will not race next season, because this is an abysmal start to the season. FedEx, Prime Target, EB, and Fangs race next. And they're racing, and it's a relatively even start. It looks like Fangs beginning to pull ahead through the explosion zone. Prime Target atop of FedEx, which will cause him to lose the race to Fangs. FedEx also got up onto the side of the track a little bit, and once again, we see a competitor on upside down on top of another, which causes the competitor who's still upright, still on the racetrack, to lose the race. Prime Target will be placed in third, FedEx in second. It's going to be Fangs advancing around 2. Emerald, California, Castrol, and 156 race next. And they're racing, and it's a pretty even start. It's very close at the front of the pack. The explosion as they're both out of harm's way. Emerald will cross the line ahead of 156. California will slide across the line on her side, but it doesn't matter as Emerald has already crossed. His line is clear. No competitor on top of another. No competitor intimidating another. It was just fast, hard racing right to the finish line, and the fastest prevailed. And the fastest here was Emerald. 2 racers remain in the first half of round number 1. We have Ethel, Indy, Auto, and Sprint racing next. And now they're off. And it's a pretty even start. It looks like Indy may be beginning to fall behind. The 2 non-NASCARs off the track. It's close between the NASCARs. And Auto will flip Ethel off the track. And Auto will claim the victory, moving on to the next round. As once again, the NASCARs finish 1-2 Auto, getting the best of Ethel. Final race of the first half of round number 1 contains Spoiler, Budweiser, Zonda, and Purple. And they're racing, and it's a pretty even start. Don't know who's leading through the explosion zone. It's Purple and Budweiser still on track, and Purple will get flipped off, so Budweiser will claim the victory. Budweiser will take the victory. Purple in second, Zonda in third, Spoiler in fourth. Another NASCAR moving on to the next round, as we now take a look at our first half round 1 competitors. A lot of NASCARs moving on to the next round, and a lot of pretty good picks to see who will win this competition. It's tough to choose, but based off past precedent, as I typically do in these, I am going to go with Ladder at the moment to win this competition. He was the second competitor we raced in this video, or I guess the second race that we ran in this video. He's finished second place in every race derby that we've run, and so I think he's going to win this competition. It suits him. I don't know why, but it does. And so that's who I think will get the win at the moment. We still have 31 competitors to go in this round, so I could change my pick, but it's going to be extremely difficult to. And so that's it. The first half of round number 1 has been completed. If you don't want to miss the second half of round 1, or the rest of this competition, or the rest of this season, subscribe to the channel down below. This competition is only going to get crazier, and this season is only going to get crazier as we race. So that's it. That's the end of this one. We'll catch you later for the second half of this round. But until then, my name is Farkle8000, and we'll see you later.